Hey everybody, this is
Got it.
Casey Cease with Lucid Books. I'm here with my friend Gerry Escalante, and Gerry is also one of our authors, and we're here to get to know him a little bit today and hear about his book and his work. So, Gerry, why don't you just take a few minutes and let us know about yourself?
Okay. Well, thanks, Casey, for inviting me here. So my name is Gerry Escalante. I'm from Hesperia, California. I'm one of the elders at our church called Oasis Community. We've been there for about 4 years, and so I have a wife and I have three girls, ages 5, 3, and 1.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yep.
Well, good, man. So, what compelled you to write a book? Why a book? I mean, so many people want to write a book. They talk about writing a book. They think about writing a book, but you've actually written a book. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah. So when we had our 5-year-old, she was about 2 years old. We were trying to purchase books that would teach her about Christ and have her see pretty much from the Old Testament all of the shadows and types of Jesus and how it brings us to Jesus. And we noticed that a lot of them there's tons of wonderful books out there, but they're like so thick and they weren't age appropriate for our little girl. So what we decided to do, we're just like, let's just get a handful, let's just start drawing and start writing a little children's book that she can still keep her attention span, and we don't have to spend a year going through it. We could do maybe a night, 2 nights, a couple stories about it, and hopefully at the end she would understand that the story leads to Jesus. So that's kind of where it all sparked from.
Well, that's excellent. So, I talk to a lot of parents, having been in ministry over 20 years myself, having 2 daughters, and it's interesting how little most of us think about discipling our children until we actually have children. Mm-hmm. And as you said, you're an elder of your church, and so part of the qualification of eldership is keeping your own household in order. And so,
Right.
Can you dig in a little bit further into the topic of the book, kind of where it comes from, and really just tell us the journey? Everyone loves kind of the behind the scenes look at an author's journey, and so can you dig a little bit deeper through that for us?
Sure, absolutely. So as my wife and I were thinking of just something that would really have a child have the experience of learning Jesus Christ through these wonderful stories that we all love and learn, and we've heard David and Goliath, Moses and the burning bush, Adam and Eve. And so what started just pretty much gripping our hearts was, how can we make this to such a palpable piece of work where she's enjoying the language. It's kind of fun and interactive. At the same time, at the end, Jesus is pretty much the hero of the story. That's kind of where we really were driven to really write this book. It was so awesome to do so, because I think it really showed just. It made my wife and I challenge ourselves. Like, we got to make sure that this is totally like in line with past theologians and past pastors that have labored over these points. So we really just it challenged our faith, and I've seen our little one understand and kind of grasp more and more. Oh, this points to Jesus. Adam and Eve, it's not the end of the story. God always had this plan, which is Christ. So that's kind of pretty much where we came to our journey and came here.
So if I'm understanding kind of where you're coming from, or not kind of, but actually where you're coming from, when your readers are reading the book, you have 2 experiences really. You have the child who's either reading the book or being read to, but then you also have the parents as well. Mm-hmm. Now, as you were writing this book, did you think much about the parents' experience? What were you hoping to accomplish for the parents, and what were you hoping to accomplish for the kid? What were you hoping that they would experience together?
So with the parent, I was hoping that if they had never seen the connections of the Old Testament, they would see it for the first time.
That's awesome.
And then it was almost like this expectation at the end of that story. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean? How is this the end? Of course not. God had this plan, and in the end, He was going to bring about the fulfillment of Christ. And so I think our main aim, as you said, and thank you for saying that, is that our parents would also learn along with their child. And hopefully at the end of the book, there's a couple of interactive questions that they would ask their children. At the same time, they can also be lead the example of asking or answering the questions themselves with their children. Hopefully that the main crux of the book would also make an impact in the parents' lives, and so the children can see, oh, mom and dad struggle with that too, or mom and dad, XYZ. And so that's kind of, I wanted this interaction to also occur with this book with the children. But you're right. I mean, that's if parents aren't learned in the fact that the Bible are not just good moral stories, but they point to a greater reality, which is Jesus, they would get that as well in a simplified form, but enough to be able to teach the children, and also at the same time grasp that themselves.
I don't know about you, but I found there's times where I've read, I went to seminary. I didn't come to faith till I was 17, but when we're reading stories to our kids or going through a catechism or something like that, there's new realities that come alive for me. And I don't know if we're just a little embarrassed to say, hey, I got that from a kid's book, and it really gave me the aha moment. But I think as a children's writer, you've got to think through, okay, who all is reading this book? And when you're writing to children, you want to make sure it's accessible to them, but you also want to be mindful of the parents or older siblings, right, that are reading. Because I know I have a 12-year-old daughter and I have a 6-year-old daughter, and our 6-year-old's learning to read, but our 12-year-old likes to read to her. And so a book like yours is really brilliant to me, because my 12-year-old, who's a believer, will have a new opportunity to be exposed to, and my wife and I really labor to disciple them up and seeing Jesus throughout the whole of the Bible. But I think the more we can have resources that enable us and empower us to do that, I think the better off that is. And remind us again, what is the title of your current book?
So the title of my book is God's Plan. It's pretty much a journey of seeing Jesus in the Old Testament, and so it's interesting. I'm stuck with what you just said, because I remember this one lady. She said she was kind of like really this moment came to her mind when she said, she's like, Gerry, like this book, I noticed something that should be a huge shift. I saw the fact that, like, the other books that I was reading to my little girl, she's like a year old, they spoke about Noah, they spoke about Moses, but then they just ended there and they went to the next Old Testament story. And she's like, and that's awesome. I didn't realize that your story led us to the end, or the expectation of Jesus coming and him being the fulfillment. So I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like, I was super stoked because of that. But yeah, definitely, I'm just really, I'm shocked by that. I'm shocked by the fact that is what she grasped from it. But yeah, absolutely.
So what are some other points of feedback you received so far from your book?
So the other feedback that I got from my book was this. So another friend of mine that had bought the book, they were reading it to their children, and the interactive questions at the end, she was really just kind of bewildered that her 5-year-old, 6-year-old girl, she had asked her if since God had requested from Abraham to give his son, what if God requested something from you, what would that be? And she said, well, it would be hard for me to give up my little brother. I thought that was pretty hilarious, that she grasped the fact that she really loves her brother, and if God had asked for her brother, yeah, she wouldn't know if she could give him up. So so people said, so I got a really good response from that couple. They liked the interactive questions. So people have really enjoyed the artwork. They said it was very colorful, very expressive, and so they really enjoyed that part. So those are the reactions that I've received so far. And like I said, the other couple, she really liked the fact that she didn't know that these stories could point to a greater reality, being Jesus himself.
That's awesome, man. So let's turn the corner a little bit and talk about, there's a lot of people that we interact with here at Lucid Books who are first-time authors, both children's books, nonfiction, whatever. What advice would you give to a first-time author?
I would say be patient. Try to get as much feedback from your friends and your family, but even from strangers, because your friends and your family can say the loveliest things to you, and God bless their heart, they want to encourage and support you. But it's when you start getting into the realm of people that do not know you, reading it for the very first time. That's kind of like, be patient, and also just get feedback from strangers. That really, really helped me to either modify, simplify what I was writing.
No, and I think that's a great
Yep.
point, Gerry. One of the things I was recently meeting with a children's author, and I told her, I said, hey, why don't you take your concept, because she had some drawing concepts, and your story, and read it to a group of kids, and then ask the kids for their feedback, and then have their moms and dads there if they're there, and get their feedback as well, which is pretty brutal. It's almost like the American Idol of children's books, but kids also don't have filters. I mean, it's almost like most of them will be the Simon Cowell of the world, right? And just kind of let you know, like, that is so confusing. I don't know what you're talking about, and so that's a really great feedback. So I know our team really appreciated working with you at Lucid Books. Anything you want to say to people who are considering working with Lucid Books?
Yes, definitely. So my experience with Lucid Books was amazing. I think they go above and beyond than I expected. So a good example of it was one of the ladies in the team she was the editor. She was so invested in the book, and she wanted to see it just really be successful. She was like, she just went above and beyond, and it left me speechless. So that is something that I really encourage anybody that's for first time author. Man, Lucid Books, man, like they're there to support and bring about the best out of you, and that's what she did. So I'm thankful for her.
Now we're thankful for you, man. So hey, if someone takes the time to read your book and all that, I would say, you know, what I've heard you say is the reasons why you think people should invest in reading God's Plan by Gerry Escalante is because it helps connect the Old Testament to Jesus, and it shows Jesus as the hero throughout the whole of the Bible. But you said you're an elder at your church. Let's say a church or an organization wanted you to come speak. Would you speak to kids events? Would you speak to adults? Would you talk about parenting? What would you like to come talk about to groups?
I am open to speaking to any groups because I think with parents especially, I would be open to have them realize the importance of discipling your children and equipping them in the gospel. So I would love to speak at any type of engagement with children. I would love to just sit down and just engage with them and just read the book to them. And so I any type, parents, adults, children. So I'm open to it all. Yeah.
One last fun question. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I was like, man, and I was like, is there anything that I would want to possess? Because we all want to be, want to fly or run quickly. And I was like, And so I think probably the superpower that I would really want to ever attain would be probably controlling things with my mind, like objects. I don't know. I think that'd be pretty cool. I could do yard work with just my mind.
That's it, man.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, Gerry, thanks for taking the time out of your schedule to visit with us. And it's a joy to have you a part of the Lucid Books Authors team. And everybody, you can catch up with Gerry. Why don't you tell them where they can find you online, Gerry?
Yeah. So you can find me online. Let me get that for you because we have a couple of spots for us, and that would be you can get us at on Instagram. We are at G Escalante 2. Our Facebook profile right now is Kari plus Gerry Escalante, and our Facebook page is God's Plan at G Escalante and the number 5. Just go on there, and we'll probably be setting up hopefully in the future soon a website. So that's where you could find out the latest information.
Awesome. And you can go on to Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com and look for God's Plan by Gerry Escalante. Gerry, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us, and we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.